Present this evening, Monday, March 13th, 2023, are Mayor C. Holland Purdue III, Vice Mayor Billy W. Stockton, Council members C. Ralph Casey, David K. Clements, Benjamin L. Mullins, J. Tyler Lee, and Mark H. Newbill. Also participating are staff members as noted.
Let's do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Before we move to approve the agenda, we need to amend and add one item. 4.2 will be the 150th anniversary history highlight by Daniel Pernard. With that addition, is there any other additions or corrections to the agenda?
Motion to approve the agenda. Amended agenda.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, next we're going to go to the special item. We're going to do the resolution honoring 55 years in business for J&J Fashions. Resolution of the Town of Rocky Mount honoring 55 years in business for J&J Fashions. Whereas J&J Fashions was always a family-owned business, owner Jewel Hunt started the business at 275 Frank Street in downtown Rocky Mount on March 28, 1968. And whereas J&J stands for Sisters Jewel and Juanita. And whereas Jewel aims to always treat customers fairly and honestly and ensures that employees will lift the spirits of the customers on entering the store. And whereas J&J Fashion supported the local community by hosting charity fundraising events, including many fashion shows, and supporting those in need of clothing. And whereas Jewel's daughter, Sheila Copenhaver, worked in the store from time to time. Ms. Copenhaver would often get off of the school bus at the store and begin work. And whereas J&J Fashions operated for 55 years, including 47 in Rocky Mount. And now therefore be it resolved, this 13th day of March 2023, the Rocky Mount Town Council, the mayor, and town staff would like to thank Ms. Jewel Hunt and her daughter, Ms. Sheila Copenhaver, for running the clothing store in downtown Rocky Mount. Be it further resolved that Wednesday, March 13th, 2023, is officially declared J&J Fashions Day. The town of Rocky Mount, Mayor Purdue joins the town council as well as the town and its citizens in celebrating their many, many years in business, given under this hand the 13th day of March 2023. Next, we have the 150th History Highlight.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. As a reminder, these history highlights are something that we hope to do every month through the town's sesquicentennial year as a way to honor our past. So this month, I'm going to be reading from a tour that was created by the Community Partnership for Revitalization when they were doing the Uptown and Downtown revitalization about 20 years ago. And it goes over, has a unique perspective of the formation of Rocky Mount that I'd like to read this evening. Rocky Mount began as a small 18th century community centered around the iron industry. When Franklin County was formed in 1785, Rocky Mount became the county seat, and its first court was held in January 1786 at the home of James Calloway's Ironworks, the site of the farm at the furnace. By April 1786, a log courthouse had been built near today's courthouse. At the time, the land the courthouse stood on was still owned privately by James Calloway and Thomas Hill. Near the courthouse, Calloway constructed a tavern, an office, a dairy, and 2 houses. He and Hill refused to sell lots to anyone else. Irate citizens managed to get an act through the General Assembly authorizing the county justices to redetermine the center of the county in order to relocate the county seat. There, they were to lay off half-acre lots for sale and establish the town of Mount Pleasant. This threat pushed Callaway and Hill into selling some of their lots to keep the county seat from being moved. Nevertheless, the town of Mount Pleasant was formed in 1804 and laid out on the east side of Maple Avenue. Lots were sold, and Mount Pleasant continued its existence until 1873, when a new act incorporated both villages under the name of Rocky Mount. In 1839, the isolated little mountain town formed a closer link with the outside world when the section of the Pittsylvania, Franklin, and Botetourt Turnpike from Rocky Mount to Big Lick, which is now Roanoke, was completed. Agricultural crops and the iron industry's products could then be shipped to wider markets. Stories of drovers with flocks of turkeys, sheep, herds of cattle, and even droves of recalcitrant hogs moving along the turnpike are part of the county's colorful lore. Rocky Mount's window on the world opened even wider in 1880 when the Franklin and Pennsylvania Railroad came to town. This east-west line hooked onto the Southern Railroad that linked Lynchburg and Danville. A few years later, in 1892, the pumpkin vine of the Roanoke and Southern Railroad was completed. This twisting and turning line from Roanoke to Winston-Salem, North Carolina, was not only a major transportation hub en route to Rocky Mount, it was also an important social hub. For years, people would go to the depot and watch eagerly to see who might get off or on the train. The railroads also changed the path of the town's development. In the 18th century, the only semi-viable transportation was over exceedingly rough roads that were little more than mud holes in bad weather. As a result, Rocky Mount was originally settled on high land that provided some drainage. The railroad, on the other hand, needed a gentle grade. As a result, Rocky Mount's uptown courthouse section is matched by a downtown area that developed around the railroad lines. All right, thank you for letting me share that this evening. And next month, we can look forward to hearing Miss Linda Stanley from the Franklin County Historical Society speak about some of the notable folks who are buried at the Tanyard Cemetery across the street here. Thank you.
Thank you, Danny.
Thanks, Dan.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, next are the committee reports. Those reports are included in your packet. We have the approval of the draft minutes. Any motions?
So moved.
A motion?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
That motion carries. Approval of the consent agenda.
Motion.
Motion, do I have a second? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We'll now go into our public hearing for the adoption of resolution for amendments to the town charter, and Robert Wood will be going through that.
Just as a reminder to council, the Charter Review Committee has met twice to discuss and review potential changes to the charter. You had the proposed charter in your packet. Most of the changes that are in there are to update and make corrections to things that have happened over the years. For example, changing the election time from May to November to make sure that that's all current in the charter. The only substantive change that's being proposed is to add term limits for the mayor and council member offices. That proposed change is found in section 3.4. And as to the process, the state code requires that if a town or city, or I guess a county, decides to make changes to their charter, they have to hold a public hearing. That's what we're doing tonight. And then if council decides to proceed, the action is to adopt a resolution that would then send the proposed charter forward to the General Assembly, and then they will review it and hopefully adopt it once it gets to them, which would be in their next session in early 2024.
All right. No one signed up to speak at the public hearing regarding this. Any comments by council? Any motions?
I'll make a motion to approve or to adopt the resolution.
I have a first, I have a second. Does this need to be a roll call vote, John? No. If we could have a roll call vote, Ms. Dillon?
Do we need a roll call vote?
We don't?
Unless you call for it.
I'm just asking if we need to, just to be sure.
Only need it unless you call for it.
No.
Well, the old charter calls for roll call votes. Do a roll call.
We'll do a roll call vote then.
Councilmember C. Ralph Casey.
Yes.
Councilmember David K. Clements.
Yes.
Councilmember Benjamin L. Mullins,
Yes.
Councilmember J. Tyler Lee,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Billy W. Stockton,
Yes.
Mayor C. Holland Purdue III,
Yes.
And you can put me down for yes, too?
Councilmember Mark H. Newbill.
Yes.
Sorry about that.
Hiding over here.
Well over the
All right,
place.
so that, the motion carries.
Yes, yes, Mayor, it does.
Next, we have the hearing of the citizens, and we had no one sign up to speak. So now we'll move to new business, town partnership with Franklin County High School electrical class on lighting upgrades at the wastewater treatment plant. And Mark is going to present that.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Mo Potter, our new wastewater plant superintendent, couldn't be here tonight, but I wanted to take time to put a little spotlight on something we're doing. We're working with the Franklin County High School, the electrical class, a partnership that's going to be mutually beneficial to both the town and the county. So we have had a need for a while at the wastewater treatment plant to upgrade our lights out there to more energy efficient LEDs. And so the costs would likely have been in the neighborhood of $20,000. We had a discussion at one of our CIP meetings with Mo about that need, and what we were able to do. Mo was able to work with the electrical class at Franklin County High School to the town would supply the materials needed for that lighting upgrade, and that class would actually do the work. And so they get the experience and the real world experience of doing electrical work, and we are able to do something that we needed to have done at the wastewater treatment plant at probably a tenth of the cost, somewhere around $2,500 for materials for a project that would likely have cost in the $20,000 range. So I wanted to take a minute and spotlight Mo for working on that partnership. These are things that this is good government, and working across, reaching into the county, into their school system and their career and technical center, and utilizing them for things like this. So really just more of an informational thing, something publicly, maybe even, I know we have the Roanoke Times here, a great article about government being good and efficient with taxpayer dollars. And so I wanted to highlight this for you all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Before we go to the next item, it's been brought to my attention, maybe somebody came in that wanted to speak and the sign-up sheet had already come up. You want to speak? Yes, come on up. Right up here to the podium.
My name's David Phillips. I live here in town on Claiborne Avenue, and I've noticed probably in the last couple of years, I have a very big concern about the amount of traffic, one, on Claiborne Avenue, and two, the speed at which these people travel. And as I've noticed, and I've lived here for 22 years at the very location, and there are many children that live on our street, and I'm afraid of an accident that could be tragic. And I don't know what the answer is, but I was thinking maybe a study could be done as to the volume of traffic, perhaps I don't know if in those studies they can get the speed of each vehicle as it traverses through there. It's a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit now, which I feel if people would travel that would be safe. Then because you have the parking if you're going up the street from downtown up towards the Methodist Church, all the parking's on the right-hand side, and there's a curve and a limited distance view to see. So when you come around the curve at a very high speed, if there would be a child in the road or on their bicycle, I worry about that. I have a grandchild here, and there are many children that live in that neighborhood now. Some ideas that I thought about is perhaps like from Noel Street or Noel, however you want to pronounce it, to make that one way going up, just make the street one way and then two directions so the education center could be accessed both ways. You got plenty of parking. It wouldn't detract from either of the public parking spots down on the bottom side. And that really concludes my concern. I just want I don't want to see something happen that could be prevented.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we'll go to the capital improvement plan for fiscal years 2024 to 2028. And Vincent will be presenting. Is that right?
Just to remind council of the process that we're in for the budget while Vincent's getting set up. Right now, the phase we're at is to look at the capital improvement plan, which is, as the name implies, it's a plan for the big capital purchases and big capital expenditures that are coming up in the future. It doesn't actually appropriate any money or approve any money for anything that's in the plan. It is just a planning document, but it helps us as we move on to the next step, which is the adoption of the annual budget. It helps us kind of see what's coming down the road and know what makes sense to put into the regular operating budget, which we'll be talking about at the April council meeting.
So good evening, Mayor and council members. You do have before you the five-year capital improvement plan. We have added another column there as you look across the top. We have our adopted capital plan for the current fiscal year. That's the 22-23 fiscal year that we're in right now. And then as you look across the top, that you'll see we have the 5 years that we have added numbers for depending on the project that has been submitted by the different departments. So that's sort of the layout of the schedule for you. Then along the left-hand side, we have the different departments listed, and of course underneath that department would be the projects that were submitted by that department. So as you go, sort of maybe just a comment maybe on the very last page as we look at the total dollar amount. It is a strong request, but also as our town manager has spoken, these are just projects that are now we're beginning to think about and to consider and to look at ways that they possibly can be funded. So for next year, the request is a little under $4 million, which is up from what we have adopted in this year's budget of the $3.3 million. And then as you look all the way across to the 5-year total, it's a little bit over $16 million for all of our projects. So certainly we'll be glad to answer any specific questions you may have, but tonight this is just an overview presentation to you all so that you can begin to evaluate these projects. And we will, of course, as part of the budget presentation, come to you with a recommendation of which projects to fund.
Questions?
So Vincent, on this step of the process, do you need council to go ahead and adopt the CIP so that we'll have that going forward?
I think in the past, it's been okay for us to adopt it along when we do the budget adoption
With the budget itself?
with the
Okay.
operating budget. Yes, sir.
Okay.
So you don't need us to take any action tonight.
No, sir.
Any questions? Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you, Vincent.
thank you. Thank you.
All right, and that brings us to the last item on our agenda tonight, adjournment. Anybody want to make a motion? So moved. Got a motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting's adjourned.